Hello, everyone watching on YouTube and listening on Spotify. It's another episode of NRG Insights. At the moment, if you're following it, we are doing a series on the rising stars of the industry. So anyone kind of young, talented, moving up through the career ladder, which is a serious pain point for us as an industry. We know that we are struggling to bring in kind of younger blood and make it more appealing to the next level of candidates and people coming in. So today I've got Billie Cox, who is an associate at Sirius. Thanks for joining me, Billie.
Thank you for having me on, Marcus.
That's all right. And we've got a genuine rising star today, haven't we? Because you won an award. Was it last week? This week?
Yeah, last Thursday. Crazy. Luckily enough to it was the Rising Star Award at the British Specialist Lending Award. So yeah,
amazing. It was some good competition there as well, wasn't there? There's some really good people there.
There were some incredible people, and I was really surprised I won, in all honesty.
Did you already have a speech and stuff ready, or did you have to go up and go like that?
I didn't. You don't have to do a speech, luckily, at these awards. Yeah, no, I wouldn't have enjoyed that at all. But they did kind of take me off scene and do like a camera interview. But I'm dreading to see that footage because I'm not sure what I said.
You drinks thinking I'm not going to be up there, be fine.
Yeah, that's kind of how it went. You have the 3-course meal before the awards start, and there's plenty of drinks going down.
I don't know why they always do. Yeah, they always apply you with loads of drinks, and then they do the awards.
I know,
which is great if you're not nominated.
Yeah, but if you are nominated, then you're kind of just tense and worried and try not to drink too much. But yeah, that's how it's good. It went well though.
Good. Like I said, congratulations on that. It's a good field, and also suits the name of our podcast being Rising Stars. So thank you very much. But so talk to me about your journey up to being an associate at Sirius and how you got there.
So, slightly weird journey. I don't know if you're familiar with the Brightstar group or anyone who's kind of listening, but the Brightstar group is a series of 2 brokerages, and then an insurance in-house as well. We've also got a couple of other ARs, and we're fairly big team. So I started in just after lockdown, and a bit of background on me. I was studying my A-levels. Lockdown was a little bit of a weird time, I guess, for a lot of people. We planned to go travelling, we planned to go to university, we planned to not go straight into the working world, but I was hungry to work, and the opportunity to go to university just looked so different to what it looked like 2 years before when I'd started sixth form, and kind of pathed out where I thought I was going to be going. So I started Brightstar as an admin on a work placement. I wasn't sure really exactly what I wanted to do. I'd studied economics as one of my A-levels, and I thought I wanted to go into I'd applied for economics at uni. So I went into this role in finance. I started doing residential mortgage administration. I had never had my job since, but prior to that was at Tesco's. So and I worked at the care home as well. So I'd never had a proper job, so to speak, but I loved it. I wasn't sure if I was going to stay or whether lockdown was going to come to an end and then I was going to go to uni. So I never ended up going to uni, and then never ended up travelling, and I've been at Brightstar and the Brightstar group for 4 years. Went on from residential mortgage admin to being promoted through an interview process to senior case manager. So went into a more in-depth analytical approach to more complex cases, like the high value cases that come in. I looked after.
Did you move to commercial by then?
This was on bridging, so I started this was on like complex bridging, buy to let. I'd moved away from resi by the time I was doing the high net worth stuff, and was doing commercial and buy to let and bridging. Then I was promoted as a team leader, looked after the case management function, anything analytical, administration related, looked after the case management team as one of the team leaders on the Brightstar floor across Brightstar and Sirius. Then I was lucky enough to work with one of our highest earning brokers at Sirius. He does sort of specialises in solely healthcare and hospitality, and I was given kind of him to support in sole capacity, so that gave me some real good exposure to a really niche part of commercial. Yes, sure, it's Chris Field. So Chris Field, he just does pubs, hotels, trading business style commercial. So it was something really niche to kind of get into and understand that type of clientele. So I worked with him for a year, and then in Jan I started as a broker for my own deals, my own transactions. I'm the first person to move from Brightstar to Sirius as a new broker.
Yeah.
most of the time brokers kind of, you go up from the administration function to Brightstar, because Sirius is a self-generating brokerage.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
there's no necessary leads coming in. There's no you're not constantly being fed with work and fed with pipeline. You have to go out and make
Get
your
it.
own.
That's
So
actually, I'd love
it
to
is a
talk to you
challenge.
about that, because that is a big challenge as well, right? Not just for young people. I mean, anyone moving from admin to sales is a tough gig.
Yeah.
How have you found that transition into going and actually generating it? And I mean, obviously, Brightstar are fantastic, and I will always big them up about the career progression stuff they do.
Yeah.
It's really important for the industry. I wish more people followed it. But for you personally, what was that like to kind of transition over?
I think that everyone has like this kind of idea, me included, that once you have a really good idea of how the mortgage process works, what's needed, the importance of the right value, the importance of the solicitors, the importance of the whole bigger picture understanding, you think that it's going to be really easy. I knew how to place a case as a case manager. I knew what lenders did what, and I knew how to structure the right deal. But I think selling to customers, getting customers on board, especially, particularly, we mentioned this earlier on, but getting customers on board with someone that's potentially younger than their children,
Yeah.
for such a big financial decision. I'm purchasing a care home, purchasing a hotel, purchasing, refinancing large sums of money when it comes to commercial and bridging finance. It's difficult to trust a young individual. Do they know what they're doing? Have they done enough? It's like,
But technically, you can do the job, right? So it shouldn't be a problem. But do you feel that? Do you feel like sometimes meetings, and maybe we've all got that kind of unconscious bias of like, do you know enough?
yeah.
Do you come across it? Or do you see it? Or do you think a lot of it's maybe in your, not in your head, but it's because we do all get imposter syndrome, right? You're in a business with always someone more successful, so we could. But how do you feel it's gone?
I think it's easier to talk to people on the phone, and particularly in the world that we live in, there are so many Teams calls, there's so many phone calls as first point of call. You don't meet people in person, maybe necessarily till further down the line. So I feel like, as an advantage, it hasn't been terrible, but I do feel there is an imposter syndrome. I do feel kind of just still lucky to be here, as if I haven't worked really, really, really hard to be here.
Everyone that comes on, right? Every successful person that comes on talks about how lucky they were, and it is bullshit, right? Because it's not lucky. You worked really hard, like you say. If you're the first person to go through case management up to senior team leader, and then actually shift onto that serious side of things, which is harder, right? To go and generate business is a proper broker. You're not proper. That's just, you know what I mean. Proper brokers are people that can generate business as well, right? Or the top end of broking maybe. So it's not luck, but I know what you mean. Everyone does feel lucky when they get there, but it's you've had to really work hard to get that, especially given age. And it's also a factor, because it must be a factor for them when they take you on as well.
Yeah, I mean, do you mean clients, or do you mean Brightstar, or do you mean?
Well, yeah, I mean both. Even management taking you on, or clients, trusting you. It's never going to be at your advantage, because you're not at the. Like for me, I find business owners really easy to talk to, because I'm 40 years old and I'm trying to grow a business. So like it's I couldn't be in a better patch. But you've got to make that connection without having that connection. The fact that you're different ages, different generations.
Yeah, and I haven't had the same life experiences and journeys, because I appreciate that. Obviously, someone's got to give me a chance, and people are giving me a chance. But I hear a lot in the industry. It's like, oh, they've got a few grey hairs, they know what they're talking about. I don't have any grey hairs, and I probably won't for another 10, 15 years. So I do kind of feel like people's perceptions on paper is that you need to kind of be within the latter part of your career to know what you're talking about. But I've been really lucky at Brightstar. I mean, the level of volume that we do, the type of calibre of cases that we look at, I've had exposure to quite a lot of different things, and
there are people in it 15 years who are not good.
yeah,
People in it like yourself who've done it 4 and have been exposed to fantastic mentors and products and technical knowledge. So it's not. We all know it's not about age. It's about the trust side of things as well. You come across as very articulate as well. You obviously know what you're talking about. So hopefully that breaks down the barrier. We're not talking about children selling mortgages. You're an adult. You're just you're a different generation to the guys you're selling to. Or people selling
yeah. Exactly, and I think when I was talking to my mum about this a few weeks ago. Actually, she was talking about how her perception has changed as someone in the generation above me, as to if she was going to obtain a commercial mortgage. Now that her children are adults as well, would have always thought of it slightly differently, and she would have thought, oh, I need someone with a little bit of age who's been doing it a while. But we was trying to work out what job you actually do need someone with a bit of age, because is it just a brain surgeon that you want them to have done 150 operations? But there's so many jobs where you may be inferior in your career, but you don't have to be inferior in your knowledge. And I think there's the technical side of the work, but then there's also, this work is my life right now. I don't have a family, like kids. I don't have, I want to be the best, and I am hungry to be the best, so I'm going to put in more work potentially than someone that's been doing it 20 years, because I'm trying to prove myself.
Either, right? You haven't been doing it 15 years. We've always done it like this.
Yeah, I know.
Every new process and every new policy or whatever, every new bridging is not an old. I mean, it's relatively old, but it's not like most of the stuff we do now is relatively new. So if you are a bit of a dinosaur, you're probably missing out on stuff that you see straight away. So there's definitely advantages to take, for being in that younger generation.
And dynamic, everything's changing so frequently. It's not just bridging is new, but products are changing, criteria is changing, policies are changing, and if you're not keeping up to date with it, and if you're not fast, and you're not willing to kind of utilize the tech that's available, then you're missing out. And I feel like they are the things that I've got with youth, and they are the things that I'm hoping that clients are starting to see the benefits of using me for.
And I think you'll get that as well. You know what I mean? You don't have to be, like I said, you can be in that purple patch. But what you've also got to consider is you've got 30, it might put you off, you've got 30 ideas in front of you where you are growing with young entrepreneurs as well. Like I'm in a purple patch at the moment, like I said, middle-aged men trying to grow businesses, middle-aged people, sorry, not just men, trying to grow businesses, but that's the thing I'm in. But in 10 years' time, I know I'm irrelevant, because then the next group come through and I haven't got that in common with them anymore, because mine is slightly more established, or they're coming through. But you're actually in a great position where you can watch the market grow, and you'll have so much kind of in common with the entrepreneurs and developers and stuff that you work with, because some of those guys are your age now, right? They're just at the start of their careers. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, not everybody that's I'm not all clients I'm dealing with are, as you say, middle-aged men. There are some people, there are younger people that are kind of getting into the sector now, they're establishing their own funds, they're starting to invest, and a lot of the developer shows and a lot of the property networking things, you've got younger people going to them, because they're the people that need to start blooming their contact bank and building up their black book, because they don't have it yet.
So it's an exciting time for you, right? This is the worst it's ever going to be for you, because those people are coming up at the same time as you.
It can only get better.
But also, again, banging the drum for the younger generation, like, you've grown up with the tech that you can pick up a lot quicker. I think you still see old boys working on spreadsheets and thinking they know every lender and that kind of thing, but you're used to working in a tech environment, right? And our business is only getting more AI driven or tech driven as we go, so that can only be a benefit, can't it, for you, that you can adopt tech a bit quicker.
I mean, I would say we're quite traditional in the tech in Brightstar. We've got a CRM tool. We use OMS, and we utilise that function. Obviously, there's sourcing platforms, but for a lot of the business that I do, commercial, bridging, you can't really source those types of products because it's not residential regulated mortgages. It's not always about price, it's not always rate driven, it's also about the rest of the capability and the deliverability of that lender, and what other tools they might use to make the process smoother for that particular client. But
do you think that commercial is not going to be taken over by AI anytime soon? Like, I think basic resi, probably a lot of our stuff can be done now with AI, but commercial is so convoluted and there's so many variables, it's tough.
I think if it would be scary if somebody done their commercial job with AI. You can't write a commercial mortgage solely using AI and not understanding the actual basic principles, because
it pick up the client either, will it? Like, it won't.
Clients can tell.
Trust this guy; he knows what he's doing.
I think you can definitely tell when something's been written by AI. I can tell LinkedIn posts that are written by AI. I can tell graphics that have been written by AI, because they just don't make sense, and they've got the dashes and things in certain places.
The LinkedIn ones look like poems.
Yeah, they do.
They're so well structured. I think that's not what we talk about. I don't structure my sentences like that.
And clients will be able to tell, particularly clients within the newer generation, people can tell if ChatGPT's written something. So I don't know whether AI, as it stands now, will take over a commercial, but I think the way that technology is moving. Maybe one day our jobs will become obsolete, but I'm not sure whether within.
I honestly think it streamlines our job. Like I use AI in the background, right? Like
Yeah.
all of my conversations are transcribed and they're put on the system, so I don't have to type as I talk now, which means I've got more benefit of active listening. I'm actually finding out the problems while I'm doing it, because I find out if I'm typing and I'm not really listening, I'm hearing it, but I'm not really listening. Not like doing the proper thing. So AI can only benefit us on that side of the business, but it can't go out and shake hands with someone and say, trust me on this. I've done 10 of these before. You're in the right position, or don't worry, everyone's in that boat at the moment. It can't take. Our roles are relationship driven, right? And you can't make a relationship with a robot. Fingers crossed. Yeah. Anyway.
Hopefully. It's a little bit weird though, what are the types of things that ChatGPT can reply.
Oh no. Do you know what? It's only getting smart as well. Like my ChatGPT has started to talk about like me a bit. Scarily.
It's getting weird, yeah.
It's weird. Right? That also is really useful because it can do stuff.
Yeah.
It means I can go out and meet clients more. If I'm not the crap that I do that doesn't make any money, that I'm not very good at.
Yeah. The administration side will definitely be replaced by tech, I think. Or not replaced, but aided by tech. And things like voice recordings and call recordings that transcribe is brilliant. But
that's amazing. Yeah. So let's talk about your kind of rise from case management, because I think it's really important that you are in a generation at the moment and you do stick out like a sore thumb. That's why you're a rising star, because you have the drive to succeed, to go through the case management, to become a broker. And it probably doesn't feel like it for you because you're surrounded by pretty good people. But I speak to hundreds of people weekly, and everyone wants what you've got now, and they're not willing to do the hard yards. Like, I don't want to be a case manager, I want to be a broker. How do I be a broker? And I said, well, you've got to put in the legwork. How do you get that across to a I sound like an old man when I keep calling it a generation, but to a generation of people who are used to a short-term gratification because they've seen it online, right? They've seen that you can earn $1 million in a week, and they've seen that you can get the best job, and it's difficult, isn't it? Because you've done it. So I mean, how do we get that across as the older people trying to persuade people to do it?
I even tell my friends this sometimes. I think when my friends are like, I've been at my firm for like 3 years and they haven't given me a pay rise, and I say a lot, and I might be wrong because I only know where I've been in such a short space of time, but I don't feel like you get given any gratification or promotion or pay rise unless you start doing the next job. So unless you can't start putting yourself in, right, okay, I've smashed this, I've started doing this really well, and I've made note of everything that I'm doing within my job well, and now I'm going to start doing the next thing. I'm just going to put myself in that role's shoes. I'm just going to create a space for myself. So like for example, just an example of where I was in administration, I was working on the entire pipeline and kind of working on the back end of the pipeline. So from when the mortgage offers until completion, I was chasing solicitors and things like that in my first role at Brightstar. When I had done that well and I really understood, I'd read every night, like I was studying conveyancing, and I was trying to be the best at what I was doing. Once I'd done that, I then wanted to start doing the next thing. And before my boss told me, okay, right, I'm going to give you a pay rise to be a case manager, I just started being a case manager, learning that job. I think people shouldn't just expect that you're going to be given the next role. You've got to prove that you can do it before.
I think it's a case of making the manager's decision really easy. Like, I'm already doing that role, give me the money. It's that simple, and I don't want to put it into like that kind of layman's terms, but it really is. Like, do the job that you want to do and you get paid for it. But you do see that, and that, to be fair, that's not a generational thing. That's the same for people my age who are like, when I get that job, I'll do X, Y, Z, as opposed to flipping it and go, do X, Y, Z, and then you'll be given that job.
I think sometimes you've got to work hard, and especially when you're an employee, so many people's mindset is that I don't want to do anymore. I'm just getting paid I'll just do what I've got to do to get paid. But if you want to be good, you want to be more than good, if you want to be the best, then you have to do more. You don't just do what's in your job description. You have to keep striving for more, and you've got to be comfortable with working for someone else. I think so many people, because like you said at the beginning, so many people are online, don't come out of the 9 to 5, work from your laptop in Thailand. Like, that's such a common thing. People don't think that they should be governed by a boss, but we're in our 20s and that's the way the world works, and you've just got to understand that you've got to work hard.
When they talk about bosses, it's about leaders. you want to be working under a leader because they can direct, they lead, right? They can direct you in the right way. We don't know, I think I use this on every podcast, but we don't know what we don't know.
Yeah.
And with the right leadership in place. But you're right, if you're working from home, I mean, we'll touch on the working from home bit, but if you're working from home, you're working for yourself, you're only as good as you can teach yourself. Whereas if you've got a boss, a leader, a manager, people around you, mentors, then you're definitely going to be more successful.
Yeah.
Let's touch on the working from home bit, because again, we are now in a generation of, and understandably, like yourself, you started your career off in COVID, or just after COVID, right, around that time. So you don't really know any different. Like you weren't in the world of everyone was in 5.5 days a week. Do you know what I mean? So how do we get the understanding? Because I genuinely believe it's really, really hard to get people to be successful from home. I don't know many people that get promoted from home. I think it's a tough gig, and also just to get better from osmosis. Like you said, you were lucky enough to work under Chris, and you learned so much. Would you have done that if it was on a Zoom call every day? It's tough. Well, I mean, how do you feel about it?
So when I started Brightstar, they were actually 5 days back to the office already. We were one of the only firms that went back to the office straight away 5 days a week. So until January, I had no working from home. Now I work 1 day a week at home, only because, I mean, as you can imagine, transport to London is astronomical, even from Essex, and it's. But I've been to improve.
I get the days from home, right? We do admin days. We need the flexibility, but it's that constant need to be there. It's just they're not learning anything. Sorry, I interrupted.
No, that's okay. That's exactly what I was going to say anyway. You learn by osmosis, and you only learn, and you're only as good as shouting something out across the office and bouncing ideas off of one another, and being around people. I think there's so many distractions at home. I think anyway. You can end up starting on doing a job, or the fridge, or what's there to start making for dinner earlier on, and I think when you're in the office, you're surrounded by everyone else working. The day goes faster, you get so much more work done, and you're just driving that constant output over and over again.
I think the distraction thing works for both. I'm not very good in the office, I'll be honest. I'm a distraction. I should be out on the road. But it is funny, I've got people here who have been here maybe 8 or 9 months that I think there's no way they would know what they know if they're working from home. Just the nuances we've got a specialist lending team, and there's so many different nuances to dev and bridging and term and stuff, and they wouldn't have got it because I said stuff like I'm not good enough to train like in a training schedule. However, if you're sat listening to me every day, that sounds big-headed, but you know what I mean. Just being around people who are good at it makes a huge difference. And then you just take snippets, don't you, from everyone? Like that sounds really good. I'll nick that, and then you kind of build up your own one, and then hopefully someone learns that off you later on. That's the kind of where you want to be.
Also what not to do as well, because it's important to talk about making mistakes. And I always remember, obviously when you're new, I particularly remember the first mistake I made at Brightstar, and handling that mistake, and calling the client and saying, I'm really sorry. It was years ago. So I think I just I submitted on the application the wrong information. I put something wrong, and it qualified for the wrong product, and then they would have had to repay another application fee or something like that. And Brightstar predominantly deal broker to broker. So in my first part of my career, I was dealing with other professionals, and it's someone that you could potentially you have to be honest with, because they know how it works. And you can't just kind of swindle the truth. You have to be honest, and I learned that really early on by I remember our head of sales was like, you've got to just call them. You've just got to call the broker and say, this is what you've done, this is the implications, and this is how you're going to fix it. But I think you learn from other people's mistakes, or you learn from your own and then fixing them, which I wouldn't do at home. If I was working at home, you shy away from things a little bit more, and it's a lot easier to not be accountable for things. But I think I learned that integrity in the workplace quite early on because of the kind of the face-to-face environment that I was in, and was lucky enough to have.
I know I'm banging the Brightstar drum, but they are very. I mean, I speak to their managers, so as long as what they are saying is true, they are very big on if you own up to something. Like, they don't want to be telling you something 3 times, but at the same time, if you cock up, own it, move on. And if you build up that environment where, especially younger people, because you are nervous, because if you cock something up, it feels like a bigger deal. I saw something the other day where someone had cocked up in a lender, and probably everyone knows the story. He's a GDPR cock up, accidentally put everyone's name on an email, and then people were giving him a bit of abuse. And I thought the kid's like 18, 19. Like if I did it, fair enough, rip into me, but you don't know how they feel on the other end. It's quite, hard, you know what I mean? It's quite harsh for people who've been in it a long time to, giving them grief. But I think just own it. And then it's kind of went under the radar, and I don't know what happened afterwards, but you just got to own it, haven't you? Own it, cocked up. It's not as big a deal as you probably think it is, especially if you're like 18, 19, probably devastating. But then, if you've got the capacity to go, look, don't do it again.
Whatever age you are, people make mistakes, and I think it's just about comes with maturity probably, and the more mistakes you've made is the comfortability with dealing with those. And when you make your first mistake, it's never nice, and you kind of think, how am I going to deal with it? But you've just got to, honesty is always delivered better than a lie or trying to kind of swindle the truth or beat around the bush a little bit. So that's something
we've all got to do it, haven't we? We've all got to do it, but it's harder to like like you said, I've been around long enough to go, last really sorry I've cocked this up. It's completely my fault, but it is. I think it's echoed a lot more when you're starting out in your career. Things probably seem like a big. I've cocked up stuff so big that now I cock up, it doesn't seem like a big. But everything's quite big when you start out. So talk to. I've taken you way over, but it's genuinely interesting. All the stuff you're saying is very, very interesting. So, if you're all right to stay on,
that's okay. No problem.
What do we have to do? What else do we have to do then, do you think, to get younger people into the industry? Because it's not the coolest industry from the outside, and it is a lot of work that goes into it to be successful. But what do you think we could be doing better as an industry to kind of tempt in people for the next generation?
I'm not sure actually. It's a tricky question.
It's difficult.
I would say
it's really hard to be.
I would say that just a little bit more. Like I think there is becoming more and more on like LinkedIn and socials. I think there's more and more people in the sector that are kind of getting their name across. But every time, when you talk to young people, I think insurance is quite a sexy sector to be in. And everyone kind of, when you think about people that want to work in finance or in London, people don't necessarily in school. You don't necessarily think about property finance. You don't necessarily think about mortgages. I mean, mortgages sound really boring, but I never talk about my role as a mortgage broker because I'm barely doing 25-year mortgages, and everything is kind of structured and varied depending on the client, and I see more often than not short-term loans, even if it's a 5-year loan, than 25-year mortgages. Mortgages does not sound very fun. It sounds really boring. But I think
full holistic financial advice on their whole real estate portfolio, that sounds cool. But it's broken, right?
I think the names of the words we use, I think, is becoming more and more creative because I mean, a broker, that can mean so many different things and so many different aspects of the city. Anyone can be a broker. I don't know why that's used, and I feel like the uneducation for people in school, people in the latter years, people doing their GCSEs, people doing their A-levels, maybe we need to do a little bit more in schools. I think Brightstar done a fair bit. I went to one of the things I did in like my third year at Brightstar was I went to one of the local schools and I did mock interviews with like kids to kind of get them out their shell, get them talking to people, because until you have an interview, you've never experienced one before, and otherwise you're going to mess your first one up. So I think just a little bit of education as to the property finance sector. Just I don't know, more creative names. I think it's Sirius calling their brokers associates is a bit more interesting than
associates. Then that's harder, sort of hard from a recruitment perspective, because we don't know what you do.
Then it's like more jargon, I guess. I think trying to step away from.
And there's loads of people now are real estate financiers, and you're like. We were brokers.
And debt experts, and that sounds really not. That does not sound fun.
I like, just understanding that it's not. But then, I don't know. It's difficult, isn't it? Because
it's a balance. You need to get a balance between not using too much jargon, I think, and then prime education, but also not using the boring old school terminology. I think like a balance between all of those things, educating people in the sector and the world beyond just mortgages the world of development finance, the world of proper broking, as you said earlier on, and development finance, bridging finance, refurbs, commercial term mortgages, they're all such different product lines. Nobody really knows about them until you've started in the industry. But I think, I think if you're comparing it to something else in the city, insurance is such a talked about industry.
Do you think, I think of insurance as being really boring. I mean, Lloyd's of London is cool because of the building and the way they work, but I think like stockbrokers seems like a cool job. Everything else, you know about that, right? There's programs about it and that kind of
stockbrokers and insurance I feel like sit on the same level. Well, definitely in like my school, my era, I remember everyone wanted to go into insurance, or everyone wanted to be, Wolf of Wall Street. And that's kind of,
I do not get insurance. That was never we were
I mean, I can't imagine it's too exciting, but that was kind of the general consensus where everyone wanted to be. But there isn't just the set jobs that you kind of, there's so much more out there.
I mean, no one knew, you didn't know about development finance broking when you were at school, or you don't understand. I think like you said, the education piece on like how things are made in this country and how we finance them is a really interesting thing. We just haven't packaged it out very well to make it look interesting.
Yeah, I know, and I think I could talk about schools and what they teach and the relevance of what they teach all day, because the curriculum is so random. And I think for years people have been talking about life skills and just the lack of life skills that people are taught in school. And when kids come out of school, just the lack of real world, expectation and experience, because I know how to calculate a vector of a shape, but I don't know how to, you don't know anything relevant about what's relevant in the world. And maybe that's something that schools need to do, maybe that's something that curriculum needs to integrate, or maybe that's something that
I think it's schools, I think it's us, I think it's the education piece is massive, and everyone says the same thing. I think it's very, very difficult to come out of school and not have no idea how your tax is paid, but you understand Pythagoras theory, and it doesn't make loads of sense. I think if schools were more willing to have professionals in and cut out time for that, and have kind of talks and interesting things, not just firemen and not just like nurses and people like that, other people in the city, then I'm sure that there would be plenty of people in the industry, me included, the issue is
that would be happy to go
doesn't tick the boxes that the government need for the curriculum, right? So even though it's a better thing for the kids, the schools can only do what they are instructed. And we could go on about education forever. We know that it's a flawed system, right? It's flawed. It was made for us to all work in factories or be engineers. But it's not that anymore. Have taken you longer than I said I would. So I've got one last question. So if you're speaking to someone now, for you 4 years ago, what are whether it be characteristics or skill sets or things people need to hone to be successful in financial services, what would you say the most important thing is for them to kind of hone in on?
Hard work, hard graft, extra hours. You can't just work 9 to 5. You can't just get into your desk at 9 o'clock and leave at 5 o'clock. It's just you're never gonna succeed and push boundaries and get really good at something. I think in any sector, in any job, you've got to show that you're really dedicated. You've got to put in the extra hours and the extra input. Also, just a bit of self-worth and a bit of appreciation for yourself. And I think I'm an organised person anyway. I like a list and I like a spreadsheet, but I think it's really important not just to bullet your day and bullet your jobs for that day, or maybe a conversation that you had with a client to remember what you need to do following on from that, but also bullet what you've done and what you're doing towards your next goals. I think keeping record of your journey and where you're moving to is really important for progress, especially in your early years while you are trying to prove your career. I think it's really important to kind of jot down where you are and what you're doing.
It's good to look back at that as well, right? To see how far you come. We all forget how far we've come. When something falls out, you feel a bit shit, and you actually look back and go, well, 4 months ago I would never even imagine doing this deal, or I would never imagine speaking to that person, being in the same room as them. So it's really important, isn't it? If you can journal it and look back and go, it's the right direction, even if it feels slow sometimes. You're still moving, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you very much for your time, Billie. I appreciate it. Like I said, I've taken you well over, but if anyone wants to get hold of you, wants to talk to you about kind of what you've done in the industry, or anything at Sirius, that kind of thing, obviously all your socials will be on our socials, but what's the best way to get hold of you?
My email, so it's billie.cox, billie.cox siriusfinance.co.uk. My mobile is 07481
I don't know if I can put that online. Just in case.
Okay, we'll cut that off then. It's a work mobile.
I've got it. Yeah, how people listen to it. But yeah, so like I said, all your socials will be on our socials. Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. And thanks to everyone listening and watching on YouTube, listening on Spotify. And cheers for your time, Billie. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcus. Thank you very much.
Bye.
See you later. Bye.